Welcome everyone to another interview series of this She Shakes the World interview series with me, Rachel Waite, and the lovely guest that I have for you today, Chelle Verite. Wow, these interviews are all about inspiring you to really step up and shake the world and to let go of all the things that might be holding you back and getting in your way. And I am so honored to present to you Chelle because she has such a story, and I believe what she is going to share with you today is really going to empower you and encourage you to not hold back. Chelle is an empowerment coach. She's an adoptee. She's a TEDx speaker. She's a BPD sufferer, divorcee. Chelle Verite. Let's get bombshelled. Say it like it is. You aren't broken. Motivational life toolkit has enabled thousands of people worldwide to catapult their life into positive action. She is the author of Because You Matter. This is her first debut book and it has just come out, and I was very honored to get a preview of that book, so we shall be discussing this also in the interview. And just to give you a bit of background, Chelle is of Scottish and Caribbean descent. She's a mixed race adoptee who grew up as the only face of colour in the 23,000 people of the Shetland Isles, by Jewish Agnostic parents. And that, wow, Chelle, I want to begin there. But first of all, welcome. Before let me let you say something before I carry on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on board. I still haven't quite come down to earth. Literally, the launch that you were at last night was just amazing, and to get the book out. And for me, this is just such a pleasure to be able to be on your podcast as a guest, because life's tough. Yeah. Yes. So, and life is real as well. And I think that's really important. So and I'm ready for any questions you've got for me.
I'm so excited you're ready for me to throw any questions at you, because I want to start with, well, let's begin with, okay, so you and I know where the Shetland Isles is, but we're, you know, there'll be people from all over the world listening to this, and let's just first of all explain to them where are the Shetland Isles. Tell us all about that, and actually tell us about that story, like you said, of growing up as the only mixed race adoptee on this very small island. I'm going to let you share where it is. And how that affected you and has led you to sort of now, as I write this book, your first debut book. Just share some of that journey with us.
Yeah, of course, I'd be delighted to. Okay, so Shetland, if you've never been, it is the most beautiful place in the world. It reminds me of New Zealand, except it's just really cold. And it's where rain doesn't actually fall down this way. It goes horizontal because there's so much wind. So the Shetland Isles are based 263 miles away from Aberdeen. So if you imagine Scotland and the UK, you've got Aberdeen right at the top there, and there's a ferry that you can get out there, and it takes 12 hours for you to actually get there. It's a long way.
I did not know it was that far. 12 hours. Wow.
Yeah, it's closer to Norway than it is the mainland. So a lot of the influences are Norwegian. It has lovely, colourful houses. The beaches are absolutely beautiful. And when it's sunny, it's genuinely like the Caribbean, just a little bit colder. So I grew up there until I was 11, or Elefen, as they say up there.
Elefen, wow.
And Elefen, it's lovely. It's a really nice community. But like you mentioned, I was the only person of colour on the whole island. Like literally, it was just me. And I guess there's two blessings on that front. The first one is I felt a bit like a tree, because there's only about one or two trees in Shetland because it's so windy. And you do stand alone. So it's very much about feeling visible, but also completely invisible as well. So there was a real piece of, how do I find my own identity? How do I find my own understanding of self when I have no role models? So I didn't actually see anybody of color until I was 13. And I hadn't seen many trees either. So, you know, it's kind of like the landscape that I've been brought up in was very different to what I would have thought if I'd been in a different place that was more culturally diverse. Yeah, so it was quite challenging in that respect. I mean, don't get me wrong, I loved it. I was like a whirlwind personality. My parents are not, they're very introverted. So they were like, oh, look. So they knew everybody through me. Even when I was about 3, literally, I was just like screaming and shouting at people and doing things. I was always into stuff. But upon reflection, I think that was potentially my way of surviving. And that, you know, we have all of these mechanisms that we use to, it's a defense mechanism, isn't it? Because what I've realized now is I'm actually an introverted extrovert. I love quiet. I love just writing peacefulness, which is one of the reasons why the books come out. It means so much to me. So I think that was a real coping mechanism because of the environment that I was in.
And did you struggle in part of that environment? Then did you did you feel was it difficult for you growing up in that environment?
It's interesting because in the book that I've written, there's a chapter that talks about the day that my reality was shattered.
Yes, I remember
really
reading this.
So, yeah, so when I was about 6, I actually asked my parents, you know, why am I different? And I think that was your first conscious recollection as to, why do I look different? Why am I different? Why do I like different stuff? Why am I just different? I was just really noisy. They were really quiet and kind of, you know, how do we do things? And that really pretty much destroyed me when they told me. And they said it in such a beautiful way. It was almost like, well, you're really lucky, you're adopted, we got you on Christmas Eve, it's a beautiful story, etc. But it meant that, you know, there was no baby photos of me, there was no history of me, there was nothing at that point. I couldn't go onto the internet because it was like, when I was 6, it was 1981. Yeah. So I didn't have any reference points and I felt really lost. And that was at that young age. And I think that's what really not tainted my experience, because I still carried on with it, but I had much more coping mechanisms in there because I didn't feel like I had anywhere that I could call home.
Wow. So what do you feel you create? What were those coping mechanisms that you feel that you created, and how do you think that has influenced your life?
Yeah, it's massive, this one. So I liken this to, you know, going from feeling invisible, feeling completely lost, to feeling invincible. And I just talk about, like, you know, when you're 6 and you run around with like your coat over your head and you're like getting a wind and all, and there was loads of wind in Shetland, literally rain, wind. And I remember I was very little, and I don't tell anybody this. Well, I suppose it's going to tell everybody, but we lived in a bungalow. And I decided one day, my infinite wisdom, that I would climb up on the roof. My parents don't know this, actually. Climb up on the roof and jump off, because I was like, well, I can fly, I can do anything I want. Because when you're that kind of age, you think you are literally invincible.
And I'm just going to caveat there for people who don't know what a bungalow is.
Don't do that. I don't jump.
Bungalow. Tell everyone, because some people are like, well, she jumped off a house.
A one-story house.
There we
so
go.
It's all on one level. It's not that high, I promise.
Yeah.
I jumped off with an umbrella. And I just thought, I crashed, of course. I didn't hurt myself or anything. But you know, when you kind of think, you have that confidence when you're little, when you have that real kind of superpower that you feel like you feel invincible. And I think that's what I started to capture. So for me, it was about, how can I use those powers? How can I make sure, you know, I know what my kryptonite is. I know what's going to hurt me. And that I think some of it was even unconscious, because you get playful when you're little, or when you're wee, as I say in Scottish. So for me, it was, how do I keep myself safe? Because my environment couldn't really keep me safe. You know, I was always busy learning stuff, creating stuff. I was in a family where my parents weren't that demonstrative, you know, and I'm very demonstrative. I like love and cuddles and affection, and you know, I'm very loud, and not brash, but I'm very loud, and passionate about things. Whereas my parents are very steady. And they taught me lots of things, but they didn't teach me about the emotional part of me, and I am all emotion. So that was a bit of a disaster.
And do you feel that then almost was your emotional growth? It was difficult for you to grow emotionally because of that? Do you feel like some of that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I
was maybe buried.
Yeah, I have borderline personality disorder, which I found out 9 months ago, which means my wiring is different.
So how does that mean then? How does that express itself for you?
So it expresses itself in that I'm an empath, so I take on board emotions, which I use for my work. So I'm a coach, I do that, it's great. But actually, when you're younger and you're taking on board everybody else's emotions, like I liken it to like Sky TV. So, you know, you could be sitting next to someone on a bus or standing next to them, you can pick up what it is, what's happening with them.
Yeah.
And that's exhausting. I just thought that was normal. I have an overactive in terms of adrenaline. So when I get an emotional, it's like a car crash will literally hit me, and then the emotional just go. So it's like this big, huge tsunami. So if I feel sadness, it's not like on a scale of 1 to 10, it's 1 to 1,000.
Wow.
You know, it's bang straight away. And I think growing up not knowing that I had that, because I've only just been diagnosed with it, and my wiring is different. You know, it's almost like a burns victim when you get emotions. If you touch someone's body, it's really painful. So there's experiences that I've had that are just really painful, and I've not known why. And that's been labeled as truculent, difficult, challenging, you know, really negative connotations.
Yeah.
And not celebrated.
Yeah.
So I think for me, that's tough.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, like, actually being able to celebrate all of you now must feel quite liberating and empowering, because I think as children, many of us are told not to, and there's no fault, there's no blame to be put here, but we felt like our emotions shouldn't be heard, they shouldn't be felt, they shouldn't be seen, we should we should hold them in, and I think that can be really damaging for quite a lot of people. And from what you're saying now, that you feel, do you feel that now you feel it's safe and it's okay for you to express these emotions now and express what you're feeling, and how have you navigated that?
It's been really difficult. So you know, I'm on my third marriage and it was almost not because the whole kind of emotional thing debilitates you, but the therapy's really helped, so I can process that information. And for me, one of the standout things for me is, you know, I am not normal, and I love that, and I can actually celebrate that now. And that's chapter 1 in the book, is about how do you celebrate you. How do you fight for you? How do you make sure that you are okay with you? And it's taken me, in fact, probably till yesterday when the book launch actually happened, genuinely. I got the book and I was so happy to get the book, so elated. And then literally I just burst into tears. And it was almost like, I don't know if you've ever seen that film, The Fifth Element. So she sits and she watches it. Right, okay, it's this alien, I think, being, and she comes in and she sits down and she's never seen Earth before. And she sits out in front of the television. It's a really old film, but it's a good one. And she sits in front of the TV and she watches everything, like almost in fast play. And she just gets hit with all this emotion, all this stuff of Earth and everything else. And that was really genuinely what happened yesterday. And today I feel like a totally different person. It's bonkers. It's almost like I've done this for such a long time, and I relived my whole story. And if you do buy the book, you'll understand that. But if you relive that whole story, and I'm so committed to that it was literally like I was there. So when I'm writing about the 6-year-old, I am literally, so I grew up with that, and to be able to let that go has been liberating, genuinely liberating.
And what
is your oyster.
It's amazing to hear the transformation that's happened in you because of writing. It's almost been healing for you yourself to to write the book. And what would you have to say? Because I'm sure there are lots of people, listening out there who have that feeling of, well, I'm different, or I'm not normal, or I don't matter. I don't have a purpose. I don't matter. We often hear, why am and we can really struggle with that. What do you say to those people who think, just think, well, I don't matter, or they don't feel like they're important, or they feel like they're different and they don't know how to cope, and they can't accept that? And how can you help them, in terms of, accepting who they are and being totally okay with who they are, and realizing that they do absolutely matter?
Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons why I did this in the first place, like you say about the cathartic writing of something, actually understanding what that is, and living and breathing it. I can't recommend it highly enough, genuinely. I know most people journal, do all that kind of stuff, but I didn't write this book so that it would get published. I actually just wrote it for fun. It just ended up living and breathing. And one of the things in there is about the crown of acceptance. And it was a personal story that I had with my brother. So when I met all my family, so my birth family.
Okay.
Yeah, he kind of rejected me again, which was really difficult.
Mm.
But it was about that I was looking for him to accept me. So it's about he was defining who I was. And my critical mind was getting in the way of, I'm not worth that, I'm not worthy. So when you actually, whittle it all down, one of the reasons why I'm here is because I don't want anybody else to feel the pain I've had. And it is excruciating. There's times where it's been completely debilitating. And you have to be real about that. This is authenticity. This is about when you're in strength with someone, something, then it's in flow, which is great. But when you're in struggle, what do you do with that? And, my job as a coach and as an empowerment coach is, this is the reality of who you are. We have to, unless you don't want to be here on the planet anymore, and some people choose that option, but you're here to be present. You're doing that. This is you. So how do we celebrate you? What is it we can do? And it's really hard. It hurts. Life hurts. But it's what do we do with that? And so I've written as many lessons. Literally, it's the biggest book I've ever seen in my life. It's massive. It arrived, and this is a pre-launch copy. The one that actually just arrived the day before yesterday. It's just massive. It's like 524 pages. But that I just couldn't stop writing.
Yeah.
And for me, it was about, what do we do with worries? What do we do with a critical mind? What do we do with, actually accepting who we are? What do I do with emotional turmoil?
Yeah.
How do I do that? And I wrote it from my perspective, so it has my story. So you don't have to read it for you, but you will anyway.
Yeah.
Because you'll end up on whatever level. And I just thought, why not? Why not give people this amazing toolkit? Because you'll cry. When you read some of the chapters, you will cry, but you will know that you've gone through that thing too.
Yeah.
And so if I've gone through that, and I'm not like, how you get these amazing books and it's like, oh, I'm a millionaire and it's like, it's amazing. And look at my house and here's my Ferrari and blah, blah, and that's great. But actually, what about the real people? What about the people that go to work every day? What about the single mums out there? I was a single mum. What happens about when you have to make ends meet and you've not got enough money for the electricity bills and stuff? Life gets in the way. What do we do about that?
And your book will help people with that. That's what I feel. As you're talking, as you're sharing that, I know that they'll be able to pick up your book and go, okay, there's some tools in here, there's some skill sets in here that I can learn from this. What is obviously there's 500 and didn't you say 24 pages? So if you just think a moment, what is the one lesson, I'm going to allow you one lesson that you want to share with the listeners from that book? What is the biggest lesson you think you want to share that you feel led to share from the book?
So for me, and it's something that I'm working on still, I think everybody works on this, is your critical mind.
Okay.
That's it. I would say, we are our biggest critic.
Yeah.
We hurt ourselves more than anybody else.
Absolutely.
And, when we live and breathe that, and the book aside, this is not about the book, this is about journey. And I think if you can handhold somebody when they're in that space of damaging or sabotaging themselves, if you can give them something that will help, if you can actually ground them in that place and give them hope, or you give them a light or energy that you can go to and walk to, then that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Because it's not about what you read, it's not about how many books are on the shelves, it's not about how much money you've got in the bank, it's actually whether or not you can look at yourself in the mirror and be really pleased with what you see.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, I got goosebumps as you said that. How did you navigate that? So do you on a daily basis navigate that critical mind that can come in? What tools do you use to be able to, if you're having one of those days where you are perhaps giving in a critiquing yourself and you're judging yourself and you're bringing yourself down, how do you navigate that to manage to shift you out of that mindset?
Other than wine.
I know you talk about that a lot in the book.
I know in the book as well. I know one of my friends actually read it. He says, I got so drunk. He said, reading the book. He said, I have to go back and do the chapter. I said, you weren't supposed to drink the whole bottle at the end. So yeah, no, but joking aside, for me, it's laughter, just what we've done there. So if I
Yes.
can find something that makes me happy, even if it's just something I can hold on to. I mean, I've got amazing dogs. One of them's lying down there at the moment, and
I
I'm
saw him
fast
walking
asleep.
by the screen earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're really fluffy, and like, just things that make you feel comforted
Mm,
is really important for me, but also focus. So, there's days when I have a really bad day, and it'll be, and everybody gets like that because we're
yeah.
human beings. But actually, it's just focusing. Where's my focus? So am I present? And most of the time I'm not. Most of the time I'm
Yes.
thinking about stuff that's unchangeable, that's happened in the past, and I'm living in the past, or stuff that's about to happen in the future. And all you have to do is just bring that present back and be kind. I
Yeah.
think what I've noticed on this journey is that compassion level has to be there for you.
Yes.
And without that compassion, you are always going to be critical. So I up the ante just ever so slightly. I get my husband to help me,
Mm,
but if you up the ante on that and just go, if this was your best friend talking to you, or if this was, your daughter talking to you, they wouldn't say that about you. So
yes.
then it's just understanding what's real and what isn't. And what I've recognized is, certainly with my brain now, the patterns are reforming. So I'm actually consciously reforming what those patterns are, because I know that I can handle that and do that now. And I would recommend that to anybody.
Mm,
It's almost just noticing where your brain goes and just saying, is that actually the reality? Is that the outcome that I want? But that's difficult because most people don't know what they want. They can tell you what they don't want, but
mm,
it's actually focusing on what do you want. And sometimes it's just to sit down and have a cuddle.
yeah.
Sometimes it's just sleep.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a chocolate bar. Sometimes it's, let's watch a film, let's write something. I used to do a lot of poetry. So before I started the book, I started to write poetry. I didn't realize it was slam poetry. But it just kind of like flowed out of me. And when I was having a bad day, I'd
Yeah.
just write. And they were not poems to be said to anybody else. They were just mine. And it was whatever was in my mind and my body, and it would just come out.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. What I'm hearing from you is that, when you are struggling, is to like try and be in present as you can, and then, like you said, you found that outlet for it. So when I'm talking to clients as well, it's like you don't need to bury those emotions or pretend that they're not there, or it's actually honoring them, being present with them, and accepting, like you said, total self-compassion, accepting that that's how you're feeling, that's what you're going through. And then sometimes, like you said, it's laughter, and that helps you shift things, but sometimes it's finding the outlet to get them out. And for you, that was journaling, to
yeah, I mean,
and
but there's something there about
or
riding the
writing.
emotion.
Oh, what?
Yes,
Sorry.
so riding the emotion. So
Yeah,
actually,
absolutely.
when the emotion comes, it depends. I see it as you may see this differently, but I
Mm,
see it as a wave. So I
absolutely.
can be walking along a beach, and then all of a sudden a tsunami literally will
Yeah.
hit you. And then you'll have other ones where you go, well, actually, I could probably surf that one.
Mm,
And so for me, it's about understanding that emotions come. You feel the world. I feel the world. Yeah,
yes.
I don't think the world. I feel it. I'm a
Mm,
feeler.
yeah.
And what that was, so it was taught, I was taught that was wrong. But actually, for me, it's about
Yes.
feeling that emotion and sitting with it and saying, this is how I'm feeling now. This does not define who I am.
Yeah.
And if I need to cry, I'll cry. If I need to laugh, I'll laugh. If I need to get angry, I don't act on that anger. I used to, but I
Mm,
don't act on that anger. And I just, I'm able to vocalize. So I get rage. That's one of the things about the
yes.
disorder that I have. So, but to be able to express, I'm feeling rage right now,
Mm,
but in a calm manner rather than being rage.
yeah.
So that's the shift I've had, whereby before it would have been rage. It would have been like,
Yeah.
and physical and slamming plates and doing all sorts of
Yeah.
wonderful things. But now it's like, I'm feeling that rage, and you can communicate it differently.
Yeah.
And it's just noticing that, I
Yeah,
think.
and I want people to be really empowered by what you're saying, to know that your emotions, it's okay to have the emotions. It's absolutely 100% okay to have the, in fact, you should have the emotions, and there's nothing to feel shame about, whether it's a sadness, whether it's guilt, whether it's fear, whether it is anger. Anger is an emotion, and it does need to be honored, and it needs to be felt. Otherwise it stays buried and it stays stuck, and that is not, having a lot of that inside of you is not healthy for anybody.
Mm.
And honoring
I
it.
did used to, I think I used to
Yeah.
do that a lot. So like push it
Yeah.
down because I wasn't
Yes.
allowed to
No,
express
and
that.
I think that's the thing with anger. It's you know, as children, you know, we see parents sort of trying to stop children from being angry, and I think it's so important to allow that to come out so that it can. It's not something to be feared, and I think that's a lesson I've had to learn as well. It's an emotion like any other one.
Yeah, I know. I was just thinking about my son then. He's very flamboyant, or used to be
Mm,
when he was younger. So we had an angry corner. We'd also have a
yes,
happy corner and a dance
yes,
corner, and literally
yeah,
he could just go and do whatever he wanted to do.
yeah,
But for 2 minutes or 3 minutes or
yeah,
whatever. So it's all something he could
yeah.
just go crazy and do
Yeah.
what he needed.
Because it doesn't need
Um,
a long time to come out. Like it doesn't need 2 or 3 minutes, or 90 seconds, and it's probably processed if
yeah.
it's allowed to.
Same with crying as
Yes,
well. It's like
yes,
the
yeah,
meltdown Marys that you have.
yeah. But don't you feel better afterwards?
Yeah, I mean it's wonderful. You just let it
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
But then you have to be really careful that you're not in the past with that in terms of where
Mm,
that's taken you to past regrets.
yes,
So this isn't happening
absolutely.
like, so that's where the reality, what's the reality? Because you're feeling that about past, but what's the reality?
Yeah,
And it's usually very different. So you have to recenter yourself. That's what I said about being present and just literally just say, what is real? Yeah, and
mm,
sitting with that for a minute and just being, I'm thinking and feeling that was 20 years ago. What's real for me today? What does
mm.
that tell me? But you don't need to relive it all the time.
No, yes, I 100% agree. I had no idea in which direction this conversation, this interview was going today, but it's gone down a really deep route, and obviously it was something that we needed to share. I do have one more question for you. I know you said in your book and that you've faced a lot of adversity and you've faced a lot of rejection in your life. What would you say to someone who can, because you could easily have taken all this adversity, all this rejection, all this difficulty and gone, oh well, what's the point? You kind of seen as though life had dealt you quite a hard lot, and you could have really knocked you in off course. Become, seen yourself through the eyes of a victim. Why has life done this to me? Why is this happening to me? What would you say to someone who's feeling like that right now? They are feeling a bit like feeling like they are a victim and that life has done some terrible things to them. How can you help them overcome that adversity and those feelings that they may have around that?
So the first thing that I would offer is feeling that way and feeling like a victim that the world's done stuff to you is
Yeah.
perfectly normal. Yeah, we're human beings. We want perfection. We want to win the lottery. We want to be successful in our careers. We want to have an amazing relationship. We want to do all these lovely things, but that's not the reality. So I
Mm.
think the offering that I would put is, what is it firstly that you actually want for you? Even if it's just the choice between a Kit Kat and a custard cream. Yeah. So actually just empowering yourself and giving yourself the choice to celebrate what you enjoy and what you like.
Yes.
And understand that baby steps, what can you do today, tomorrow? It's not about the bigger picture. I always had in my mind what I wanted to do. I knew I was going to write books. I knew I was going to do that. I didn't know when. Yeah, it's taken years. But on the days where I do feel like a victim, and that then goes to the kind of the other side, which you then flip into the aggression. So you flip from kind of passive aggressive. That's really unhealthy for us. The adrenaline that goes through your system, how you feel about it, the way you push people away, you can't focus, you're not creative. So just acknowledge it and just say, listen, I'm feeling really victim at the moment. And these are all things that make me feel victim. And I scrumple it, put it on a piece of paper, scrumple it up, burn it, or put it in your pocket and leave it, because it's always there. Physically do something with it and just say, yeah, feeling really shit right now. And go, right, brilliant, okay, scrumple it up, put it in my pocket, or fling it away, put it in the bin. And then think about, right, what do I want now? What do I actually want? Because is it that you just want to have a rant?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we can have a rant. Brilliant, go out in the garden, stomp, do whatever you need to do, and have that rant and just get it out. But then think about, once that rant's done, what is it you actually want as a result of it? So if you're feeling angry about the world, why is it, that, I don't know, this bill's come up and I can't pay it, or something's happened and I've been made redundant, they don't know what they're losing. No. You have a massive rant about it, and they say, well, right, well, what do you want now? So I want, what is it you want? You're like, I want to be heard. Okay, brilliant. What does that look like? Well, I want to speak to people. Well, who are you going to speak to? Who are you going to speak to first? What do you want? It's like, well, no, I just want a cup of tea and a biscuit. Okay, go and have a cup of tea and a biscuit.
Yeah.
And that's the most amazing thing. So I would say turn that energy, because it's only energy, turn it into having the rant, but actually, what is it you want? So have the rant and say, that's really unfair. I'm feeling really lousy. I'm so tired. It's like, okay, so what do you want? Well, I want a bed that floats on air, and I want a cuddly toy next to me, and I want this, and I want, okay, so what's the first step you're going to take?
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the shops and buy a cuddly toy and some fluffy bedding. Brilliant, off you go.
I love that.
So
I love that you're breaking it down into doable, easy steps, because sometimes what you want can seem so, like, say you've lost suddenly, I don't know, you've suddenly, like you talk about, you've lost your job. Suddenly you're like, wow, I want another new job, and so where's my money going to come from? And it can make it feel so impossible. Let's say it feels like a massive thing, but actually, if you can break it down and just go, you can get that frustration out, you can get out all that you're feeling. And then you've got that out, then you feel more open. You're like, okay, right, you can think about what you want. And then, like you said, just take that first step. Okay, what can I do right now? Let's not worry about how I'm going to achieve that massive thing right now. We're not there yet. Let's just take one step at a time, because as you do that, as you know, your energy opens up, you open up, and actually the solutions come a lot easier. You're able to move forward. You're able to take action on what it is that you feel like you want to do next. And because you expressed all that you were feeling, you honored that, you let that out, and then you're in a place where, okay, I can see clearly now what I do want and what I should do next, and just take those little steps towards it. It's little, isn't it?
I think for most of us, we think that moaning about stuff is either not allowed, or we just get into a habit of moaning.
Yeah,
it's like, you know, my auntie Em, she always moans about the weather. You know, if it's washing out, it's too windy, it's not sunny enough, there's always something to moan about.
Yeah.
So have that moan about life, but then think, right, what do I want instead of that? What do I want? And it might just be, we forget to give ourselves stuff. You know, if you're a career person, or you're a mom, or you're doing stuff, a parent, and we often are following everybody else's desires, and we forget about what we need and what we want.
Yeah.
And some of us don't even know how to do that.
Yeah.
So that's why I said to you, is it going to be the Kit Kat, the custard cream? Because really, people have just gone, well, whatever. Yes. It doesn't matter. And actually, do you know what? That can be the biggest cause of frustration, going, I never get asked what I want for a biscuit. And then that can break marriages just over a biscuit, you know? So actually, what is it that you want? And when you start asking that question and saying, the victim mentality, you don't focus on it, you just ditch it, you just choose something else.
Yeah.
But sometimes people need a way to enable that to happen. Yeah. So how do you do that?
Such gold in what you are sharing here, Chelle, and I encourage everyone listening to get that book, because there's going to be lots of other tools. Like you said, there's a massive toolkit in there for people if you're looking for a toolkit. Loads. Then it is an involved book. It's not just a book you read and put down. This is a book that you read and you write in, and you participate in. And I feel like the more you participate, the more that you are going to get out of it. And I will share.
There's like books like it's like, you know,
exactly,
you have to ask yourself and stuff.
Yeah.
But this isn't about selling the book. This is not what this is about.
No.
This is about everybody has adversity.
Yeah.
Everybody hurts. Everybody has pain, and it's about, where can you find a place where you can show that pain safely. Yeah. So whether that's to yourself, whether that's to other people, whether that's writing it, but what do you do to acknowledge how amazing you are? Because there's times where, and you'll get to, you know, some of the writing, I didn't ever love myself. I'm learning to do that. Yeah, but that's my history. Yeah. So again, what's the reality? How present are you? What do you want for now? Yeah. And it's baby steps. Everybody's on that baby step. So it might be that, I don't know, you want to learn how to do a 3-course meal and something. Start off with a snack. Yeah. You know, just take it easy. And have that compassion. Yeah. Because when you have that critical, I call it devil mindset on your shoulder, it's hell. And it can just be a pattern that you just get into and you don't even realize you're doing it. And we only have one life. You know, I always say life is for enjoying, not enduring.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I couldn't agree more. Shall I have one final question? I like to end my podcast, my interviews with this. So, as you know, this is about empowering people to shake the world. She shakes the world. So, Shell, I want you to imagine that you're coming to the end of your life, and the question I have for you is, Shell, how did you shake the world?
Right, okay. Well, book number 1, book number 5 will be a library, but what I really want for people is to feel amazing, to feel equipped. And my job for the rest of the world that I've got and the life that I have is to equip people with a toolkit that they can actually use and have fun with it. Because nobody should feel like they haven't got the answers. You know, everybody likes to learn something, but you should feel empowered. And this is about being real, so who you actually are, you know, showing up in a way that you want to show up and being seen. Because there's so many people that I talk to that say, Chelle, I'm just not seen, I'm not heard, but then they don't know what it is that they want to be seen for. So again, it's just celebrating. And for me, it's about having fun. Like literally, we had disco balls and lights yesterday. And
I saw.
And you can see already there's loads of balloons left. I literally just left everything. But we should feel that you are celebrating who you are. Yep. So it's the enjoying, not the enduring. And that genuine belief that you really, really do matter. And it's a question that, you know, if you ask people, they're like, I don't know. And so my quest is that everybody will know.
So everybody will know that they matter because you showed up and you shared your story and you empowered people to realize that they matter.
I would love that, but not from an egotistical point of view, just purely because I want them to pass that on to their children.
Absolutely.
If I had this toolkit that I had created in my life, and we've handed this on to our daughter Annabelle, she's just turned 18, and she says, Mom, it's amazing, I wish I had that. And she said, I'm so lucky. And I have other people who are like 50 or 60 saying, I wish I'd had that when I was younger. And so this isn't about, I won't make any money from the books. you never get rich from books, but it's about getting it out there and just telling people, this is your story. What is it you want for you? And just there's so many things.
Shell, this has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you for sharing your energy. You've such a vibrant energy and such a beautiful soul. And thank you so much for sharing with us today. And I will share with everybody how they can get their hands on that book. And it's changing lives. And thank you for your service to the world and what you do.
Amazing. Thank you for having me. I've had an amazing time. So have me back anytime you like. I'll chat forever.
Thanks, Shell.
Cake and wine.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Thank you for listening.